it's Stephanie with the Rancher's Homestead. Welcome back to the channel. Today is a really busy day in my homestead kitchen, and so I thought I would take you along. We have both canners going, one going right there on the stove, the other one's going to get going once this one's done. We're putting up fermented food, we're gonna freeze some tomatoes. So we've got a busy day of putting up some produce, and I thought I'd take you along with me and show you how I do it all. You can see my roaster pan out there. It's empty now because all of that was spaghetti sauce and it is now in the canner. So I started this yesterday, and what I did was I went ahead and just added all of my tomatoes, skins and all, tomatoes and a zucchini, which I'll touch on that, onions and garlic, threw it all in my roaster pan. And I just let that cook down all day long. And so the zucchini, actually, I found out from a friend, is a natural thickener. And so I am very pleased with how my spaghetti sauce turned out. And once I had it cooked down all day long, I think it was probably like 5 o'clock. I started in the morning, I was gone all day. And I think I started around 5 o'clock. I came home and I immersion blended it so that I got it all nice and smooth, and then I added in my spices. I will link in the description kind of what recipe I used, although the process I did differently because I did it in my roaster pan since I didn't have the time to stand at the stove and run it through a mill or any of that kind of stuff. So this actually worked really nicely. And then after that, I let it cook the rest of the way all night long. And then this morning, I went ahead and immersion blended again and started filling my jars. I filled all of my jars to a 1/4 inch headspace, and I added 2 tablespoons of lemon juice into each jar. And then I popped them in the canner. For Missouri, I'm processing these for 45 minutes. So once these are done, I already have 6 quarts of spaghetti sauce, and I didn't hardly do any work. I will use this method forever. I didn't need to use tomato paste because of the zucchini. You can't taste the zucchini. The creaminess of the sauce. I even had the girls taste it while I was putting it into the jars because I'm like, this is the best spaghetti sauce I've ever made. And I didn't do anything. It would take me no work. So I will be doing that again. It's a very simple process. And actually, I put some raw tomatoes in, and then I put some frozen tomatoes in, because the frozen, once you freeze your tomatoes and then you thaw them, you can just slick the skins right off. They come right off. And so I had been collecting my tomatoes as they've been coming ripe and throwing them in the freezer until I had enough. And so those ones I went ahead and pulled out the night before yesterday, and I defrosted them, and then I took the skins off and put them right in the roaster pan. So there was some not skins, but then I went out to the garden that morning and picked as many that were ripe and just quartered them and threw them right on in. So simple way to make tomato sauce. So that's the first thing that we're doing today, is we're canning up my tomato sauce. The first 6 quarts to get on my shelf, and I'm excited about it. Okay, next thing that I'm going to do. So I guess the best tip I have for you when you have a busy day like this is to kind of map out in your mind how to maximize your time. So I knew my tomato sauce was already done, and so I just went ahead and before I ever did anything else, I just went ahead and filled my jars and got them into the canner. This is the only thing I'm gonna water bath can today, so I wanted to get that done and out of the way first. And then I can move on to the next thing. Then I will move on to what's more time consuming. So the next thing that I'm gonna do is can these black beans. I went ahead and soaked my black beans last night. So last night before I went to bed, I soaked all of these black beans, and they've absorbed quite a bit of water, but not a ton. And I'm gonna go ahead and drain these black beans and refill them up and put them back on my stove to start cooking. I will cook them for 30 minutes. I'm not trying to get them anywhere done, but then they're ready to go in the canner. I'm hoping my timing kind of lines out just right, since those have been in the canner. Well, they've been in the canner for about 15 minutes. So I have about 30 minutes left before those are gonna come out, and then I can go ahead and switch canners. Beans need to be pressure canned. The reason that I soaked my beans last night is I like to give my beans a good soak at least 24 hours before I can them because it breaks down the phytic acid in them and they're easier to digest. So it also helps you get a more accurate headspace because the beans will absorb some of the water and then they're gonna cook the rest of the way in the pressure canner. Beans have to be pressure canned, so you cannot water bath can these, but don't get scared, it's easy. So I'm gonna use my Denali canner for my black beans, and I'm actually probably going to double stack my canner, which I can show you that too. So I'm gonna drain these beans, get them, refill them, get them on the stove to start heating up, and I'll get all of my pint-sized jars washed to be able to put the beans in. Because I'm going to use pint jars for beans because that is the size that's most like a can of beans from the store. So when I'm following a recipe, it's easy for me to do that. And then I'm going to use the rest of those pint jars that I just washed and cleaned for fermented pickles. So while my beans are cooking and my canner, my water bath canner is going and the sauce is being done there, I've got my jars ready. I'm going to start slicing and getting my fermented pickles ready to go. So I wanted to talk a little bit about fermented pickles. Fermented pickles will not be canned and they will not go on my shelf. They're going to be refrigerated. But first, I am going to ferment them on my counter. So it's really, really easy method to do. The biggest thing with fermented pickles that I choose to do that over canning them is one, they stay nice and crunchy as long as you pick them small like this, not get them too big. This one is a little bit, I don't know, I'm gonna cut into it and see how much water content is in it, because if there is too much, if they get too big, this is borderline. So if they get too big, they hold too much water inside of them, and then it doesn't matter what you do, you're always gonna get a soft pickle. So I try and pick them small. I have several. I even have them like itty bitty, because these ones I'm not even gonna slice, I'm just gonna stick them in the jar. Hopefully I have enough that are similar size. Like that. So the biggest thing is you want to pick them small. Now, fermenting means that you're going to create some really good healthy bacteria in your jar that is really good for your guts. Fermented foods are really, really good probiotic. It's going to outweigh, a fermented food that you make in your own kitchen is going to outweigh any probiotic that you can buy from the store. Fermented foods is the way to go. Honestly, I talk about this a lot, and I'll just touch on it for a minute here, is people will ask me what supplements do I take and this and that, and I don't take supplements. I think there's a really good time for supplements if you're trying to correct something, if you're having a lot of health issues and things are, your hormones or different things are way out of whack or different, you're deficient in something, there's a time and a place for supplements, but they are not a long-term goal. We should be getting what our body needs through our foods, and fermented foods is one of those things. So if you are somebody that's like, I take a probiotic every single morning, my gut should be good. I'm not saying the probiotics from the store are bad. I'm just saying fermented foods are going to be better for you. So, okay, so I'm going to go ahead and get all of these sliced up and ready to go so that I can get them into my jar. I'm gonna quarter these ones, I think. Well, I don't know. I haven't decided yet. So it'll be a surprise for us both if I'm gonna quarter them or if I'm going to just slice them into like little chips. The last round I did, I sliced them into little chips, and they're perfect because you just take out a couple of them and pop them in your mouth for a snack. I try and eat fermented pickles every single day, at least just a handful of them. If they get too soft and yucky, so some of these I had in my fridge, like this one I think I'll give to the chickens. If they get too soft and mushy, they're not gonna make good pickles, so don't use them. Okay, so I'm gonna sort these through, and then, look at this one. Lo and behold, that is a cucumber. I picked that one today. I don't know what I'm gonna do with that one, but. Okay, I'm gonna sort these, get them sliced up and ready to put into my jar, and I will tell you what I'm adding to my jar once we get to that point. It's really, really simple. Now that I got everything sliced, I did some in spears and some in little chips like that. I am just breaking up this clove of garlic because I am going to put, or I guess bulb of garlic, not clove. I'm gonna put 2 cloves in each of these jars. And then I'm going to put all my cucumbers in it, add a teaspoon of, I usually use like a sprig of fresh dill. I like that better. I don't have any more in my garden. It seeded out before I got to it. So I'm gonna use dill weed that I have. And then I'm gonna do a half a teaspoon of a good quality salt. I like Redmond's real salt here. And then I will fill it with water and cap it. So it's super, super easy. Again, these have to be kept in the refrigerator. This is not a canning recipe. They'll ferment on my counter for 72 hours. I'll burp them every day. That just means to loosen the lid or the ring so that the gases can come out. And then I will put them into my refrigerator and I'll store them, and they will store for months and months and months and months. So they don't need to be canned, but they cannot go on your shelf. And then we'll just munch on them every day. Okay, so we're gonna get our garlic in, we're gonna put our salt, our dill weed, put our cucumbers in, fill it to the brim with water, and cap them and get them on our shelf. Let's hop to it. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and cap all of my fermented pickles here. Now I will say this, that you wanna keep your pickles completely submerged underneath the water or the brine. So the slices are a little bit harder to do that. I don't have all the fermenting special tools. I have learned a long time ago that for me, it's easier for me to just work with what I have than to have to worry about not being able to do something because I don't have all the right tools. So I work with what I have. The slices are easier because you can pack them in tight and they don't move, and so they're easier to stay underneath the water. So I do like that method as well. I like the little chip slices because they're just easier and funner to eat. But in terms of fermenting, when you don't have all the right things, having the spheres are better in terms of keeping them packed so that they stay under the brine. Now, I've capped all of them. I need to go run and get 2 more rings because I'm out of rings, wide mouth rings up here. So I'm going to kind of give this a little bit of a shake, each jar. Set this on my counter for 72 hours. Every day, or when I look at it and see all of the bubbles rising in it, I will go ahead and just open it like this. That's called burping. And then tighten it back down. You just want to release some of the gases, otherwise they'll start to seep over because it is going to ferment. At 72 hours, then I'll go ahead and put them in my fridge. I won't eat them for at least a week because you really want that pickly taste. And so it takes some time for the brine and everything to get going. But the warmer your kitchen is, the faster they will ferment. So I will shake each one of these jars just to move it all up. Now some people take and make a saltwater brine and then just pour the brine over it. I don't want to take the time to do that, so I do it this way and it works just as well. So now let's move on to the beans. All right, the timer went off, so we're gonna go ahead and just turn our stove off. I'm gonna give that just a few minutes. I will prop the lid open a little bit and just kind of let some regular air get into it before I remove my jars. It's not like pressure canning where you have to let things come down or anything like that, but you don't want to shock your jars. So I won't really touch them for the next 5 or 10 minutes. I'll let them sit in there and just have the lid off and let the room air get in there before I start pulling them out. Okay, so now we're going to fill our jars. I switched out my canners there and I have my pressure canner ready to go. So we are going to fill these jars. Now, because we soaked the beans and we've cooked them, they have absorbed quite a bit of water. So I'm gonna go ahead and fill my jar to 3/4 of the way full. They're gonna cook more, they're gonna expand a little bit more. I'm trying not to get the water, I'm trying to just get the beans so I can judge best. On the stove, I also have my kettle going with hot water heating up because I will add hot water to these jars. Now, I'm not exactly sure how many jars this makes. I put in 7 cups of dry beans into this pot when I soaked them last night. So I'm going to just fill until I have enough. You want to give it a generous headspace, so I'm going to about 3/4 of the way full, and then I'll fill the rest of the way with water to a very generous 1-inch headspace. Again, they're going to keep expanding. I might have filled that one a little too much. So you want to just make sure that you don't overfill them. Now, some people ask, why would you go through the work of doing this? Is it cheaper? All of the things than just buying a can that's 99 cents or $1.29, or I don't even know, I don't buy beans at the store, so I don't even know how much they are anymore. Why wouldn't you do that? Well, I don't do it for 2 reasons. One of them is it actually is cheaper. I buy my beans in a 25-pound bag on Azure Standard, and I'll link Azure Standard in the description, and it lasts me well over a year. I don't know off the top of my head. I can find out and put it in the description how much that 25-pound bag cost me, but that's number one. It is end up being cheaper. Whenever you combine bulk, it's cheaper. Next reason is that I get to give it that long soak. To me, that's important. I want to make sure whatever we're putting into our body is as healthy as can be. So if I'm going to make a chili, I make it with my own home canned beans that I know that I soaked for over 24 hours. So I've broken down that phytic acid, and it'll be a lot easier on our digestive system. So for me, those are the 2 reasons why I do it and go through the work of doing it. Also, when you have a 25-pound bag of beans, and then when you just have time on a whim and you want to put up some beans, you never run out of beans. You're not running off to the grocery store to do it. Okay, so I think I have a little bit left in here. I'm gonna drain some of this water to see how many beans I have left, and then we'll move on to the next step. Okay, so I got all of these beans in my jars. It was actually just 1 jar short. So it made 10 jars. And then I'm gonna go ahead and do a 1/2 teaspoon of salt into each of my jars. If you don't want to do the salt, you don't have to. That's just an added step. We like the salt in our beans. So I'm using Redmond's Real Salt still. Okay, and then I'm gonna go ahead and get my kettle, and I'm gonna fill each of my jar to a very, very generous 1-inch headspace. They're gonna expand some more in the canner, and if you don't give it a generous headspace, it will seep out and you won't get a good seal. So we're gonna fill the rest of our jars to a 1-inch headspace. Okay, now I got all of my jar water filled. I'm just gonna put this little tool here down in each of my jars a couple times, get out any air pockets. And then I'll go ahead and wipe my rims, put the caps on it and the rings, and we'll get them into the pressure canner. These are going to take 75 minutes in the pressure canner. So if you were doing quart-sized jars, it would be 90 minutes. So it takes a long time in the pressure canner, along with filling them all up and rising to pressure and all of that. So this is not a quick project. That's why I kind of put it in the middle. It's not a whole lot of work, but it does take some time in the canner. Okay, so we're gonna cap and ring these and get them into the canner. all of these jars into the pressure canner. I'm going to stack these jars. So the first thing I'm gonna do is get whatever can fit on the bottom, and then I'll fill it with water halfway up the jar. Pressure canning, you do not need to completely submerge them. And then I'll use this little rack here and lay them on top and put the next round on top of that. Okay, the next thing that we are going to do while the beans are in the canner, so now we got our sauce made up, we got our fermented pickles going over there, we've got our beans in the canner, we've got, where'd she go? We got a teenager making cookies, and now we're going to put up all of these cherry tomatoes. So these bigger tomatoes, I'm gonna go ahead and pop these in my freezer and wait until till I have enough to do another round of sauce like I did before. And these ones though, I am gonna freeze these as well, but I'm gonna freeze them a little bit differently. So I'm gonna slice these in half, and then I'm gonna lay them flat on a cookie sheet and call what it's called flash freezing. Hold on, I'm gonna turn off her music. Okay, I'm gonna flash freeze them, and then once they're flash freeze for like 15-20 minutes, I'll put them all in a Ziploc bag. These I use all year long in like soups, stews, anything like that where it calls for like a can of stewed tomatoes. I don't buy stewed tomatoes. I just go ahead and dump in my frozen tomatoes. The skins again will slip right off once they're thawed. So you can either throw them in frozen, and when you see the skins float to the top, I just pick them out, or you can defrost them if you have time ahead of time, defrost them and then pull the skins off that way. But when you have cherry tomatoes, and obviously one cherry tomato plant produces so many cherry tomatoes and you can't eat that many salads, this is a perfect way to put these up. So that's the next thing I'm gonna do to put up the produce that I brought in this morning. Let's get to it. We are on the last leg of what we're gonna put up today, and that is all of these jalapenos. I'm actually gonna get the ones that I've already done so far and show you what I do. I put these up a couple weeks ago. As you can see, they're frozen and all ready to go. So what I do is I go ahead and slice my jalapenos. I de-seed and de-vein them. Hopefully you guys can hear me over this canner, but our beans are going. And I take them all out and I put them on a cookie sheet laying flat. Then I go ahead and I fill them each with some cream cheese. I use my homemade ranch powder. I'll drop that recipe in the description. Homemade ranch powder with a block of cream cheese. And then I take some bacon here and I wrap them up. So once I fill each of these halves with the cream cheese mixture, then I wrap them in bacon, and then I freeze them flat first. Once they're completely frozen, that's when I put them into my my bag here. So that is the last thing we're gonna put up today from the garden that we brought in. Okay, the canner is just about ready to go off, and then I am going to turn off my stove, let the pressure come all the way back down, and till it comes down to 0, and then once it's down to 0, I'll wait 20 minutes or longer. I just let it sit until I feel like if all of the pressure is released. Take the lid out and pull the cans of beans out. We put up a lot of work today. We did a lot of food, we did a lot of work, and now it's time to go have some fun. Like I said, we're gonna get in the side-by-side, go cruise around, and take the girls to some creeks, and just go have some fun to finish out our day. I hope that you learned something just in how I have oodles of food coming in from the garden and what I do with them, how I maximize my time, schedule out my day. Hope you learned something new today, and we will see you next time out on the ranch. Take care.